It'll transcend anything of this time that we're in right now. That's the whole object of fine art, is to give us a sense of a universal sense of belonging to something bigger than us. Obama tries to make sure that we don't even know the past. Classic revolutionary tactic, destroying the past, blowing up the culture. And don't fall into it, Michael. And what you were doing in the museum was you were trying to identify with a certain part of yourself, right?
I was. And
see what I'm saying? You went there because you wanted to experience a side of yourself that you felt was artistic, that your people came from, right? Isn't that what you said, sort of?
Yes.
You said you're part Italian. I don't know what your other part of your heritage is, but you were saying maybe you wanted to see some of the fine Italian art. Is that more or less what you were saying?
Yeah, I just wanted to experience, the museum, and just not only museums, just the different venues without having an uneasy feeling about being.
But don't you understand that not everyone can feel comfortable wherever they go? Where is it written you have to feel comfortable? If I go to a ball game, as a white man, I feel very uncomfortable. I feel the mob could beat me up at any moment with a bat. What, I shouldn't go to a ball game?
You said a ball game or a bowl game?
A ball game. I feel uncomfortable going to a ball game because of the vicious idiots running around with violence in their heads. So what should I do, not go to a baseball game?
No, I mean, you have...
It's the same thing. Forget about the people. Go for the event. Don't fall into the bear trap that Obama's laying for you and the university people are laying for you, which is everything is racial. Boy, oh boy, have they boiled this country down. You got the First Lady lying through her teeth. She was not a poor girl. She did not come from poverty. And here she says she was uncomfortable in museums. My goodness, it doesn't get any worse, or does it? Yes, it does. WABC, John, fire away. You're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
When I heard Michelle Obama say that ridiculous comment, I almost fell off my chair. I go to museums at least 3 times a year, forever. And I see people from all walks of life there, and educated kids, black, Chinese, Hispanic, making such educated comments about statues, paintings. It's unbelievable.
How does she get away? I want to know how she does this at the Whitney Museum without anyone booing her and saying you're full of crap. I don't care if you're the last lady, the first lady, or the 10th lady. Just get off it already with your racial garbage.
I can't take it anymore, Dr. Savage. I don't know what...
Who can take these two? These two college revolutionaries. They're so over their pay scale level, it's unbelievable to me. They never belonged above a university, these two. This is the kind of crap you'd hear at a college. And that they sit and cheer about white privilege, and they all cheer each other. But you figure that's the lunatic asylum of today is the university. The university today is the lunatic asylum for people like that. But instead, there they are, and they continue it 7 years into their lives, and they doubling down, tripling down.
I don't get...
And who believes a word that they say?
I
get it. I can't do it. I mean, I just can't do it. It's unbelievable to me. Mary, WYAB Radio, fire away. You're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
So I thought you and the nation and Michelle Obama would like to know that poor little old Mississippi, the poorest state of the Union, is building a multi-million-dollar civil rights museum that will open up in 2017 and will show all the stuff, the bad stuff. It'll have a jail cell like the ones that the civil rights workers were put in. There's nothing to be hidden. Among those who came to the dedication in 2013 was Myrlie Evers, the widow of Medgar Evers. That is going to be a fabulous thing. Perhaps Mrs. Obama will feel comfortable there. And to that end, I would like to tell you a great Michelle story. Right before sequestration, when we were poor and we had no money, she and her entourage came to a little town called Clinton, Mississippi, a little west of here, for some silly little thing at a little school that meant nothing. And then she and her entourage left right during rush hour. The entire interstate system shut down for her to traverse from Clinton over to the Jackson Medgar Wiley Evers International Airport. And not one local media person had the thought to say, why are you spending all this money? You could have done this by Skype, by satellite, by FaceTime. Instead, you spent all these millions of dollars, well, hundreds of thousands.
She is the Marie Antoinette of our time. Michelle Obama is a Marie Antoinette in the White House. Some have called her Madame Defarge. I would call her closer to Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake.
Do you think that she'll be comfortable here? We'll invite her in 2017.
Yeah, I get your point. Let me send you a free book. Maybe you can enjoy reading Countdown to Mecca while you can still read before the liberals ban my writing. That could happen too. Start with Sharia law. You can't criticize their prophet. What's next? Well, you can't even write a book that makes reference to anything to do with Islam. You're going to have little racists in universities reading novels before they're published. Say, oh, look what he said in here. Sammy, come on over here. Look at this. He's got a thing about generals talking about Muslims been at war with the world for millennia. Uh-oh. Get them over here. We got to cut those pages out of the book. That's the world that the liberals are dragging you to. Liberal is such a misnomer, it's beyond belief. 2005, liberal fascism, Michael Savage. I'll be back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Your Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust for tangible assets, gold and silver. Call 800-BUY-COIN. So, my controversial statements have attracted the attention of the world. Savage says Obama may arm U.S. gangs for race war. So people are saying he's really lost it. It's nonsense. It'll never happen. They don't know it's already happened. How do I prove it? How about with one line? You ready for it? Remember the riots in Baltimore? Do you remember what happened? Remember the gangs, the Bloods, the Crips, and the Nation of Islam all joined up together? It's in the news. Look it up. They put them together. They created the alliance. They laid down their arms against each other, and they joined arms against all others. But you didn't see it on the nightly news, so therefore you couldn't put two and two together and come up with four. But I put two and two together, and I've come up with more than four, because there's more than four of them. I don't want to start to sound like the fool in Shakespeare, but the fact of the matter is, you don't have to be the fool in Shakespeare to make a mockery of what's going on in this country. They're making a mockery of this nation. Only it's no laughing matter. Michelle Obama says kids who look like me feel unwelcome in museums. And she grew up on the South Side. She was one of those kids herself. And he goes to a Cinco de Mayo thing, and he says that your people are revolutionists. You don't see it yet. I hope you never do. Just keep on golfing and keep talking about deflated footballs, and then call yourself a conservative. You know what I'm saying?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
You see, there are so many kids in this country who look at places like museums and concert halls and other cultural centers, and they think to themselves, well, that's not a place for me. For someone who looks like me, for someone who comes from my neighborhood.
As one of my predecessors, Franklin Roosevelt, once said, remember always that all of us, and you and I especially, are descended from immigrants and revolutionists. Immigrants and revolutionists. Now that's not the story of looking backwards, that's the story of looking forward. That's what we're doing today.
So you've got it straight up. Two agitators in the White House. If you want to be mild about it, two agitators, two left-wing agitators. Let's put it in a mild context. We've got two left-wing agitators in the White House who have not learned their lesson from the last election. Instead, they've tripled down and gone further to the revolutionary side. If you want to go farther down the scale and call it like it really is, go ahead and make my day. The New Yorker cartoon said it all in 2008, just before they became the first couple. They painted a cartoon of her as Angela Davis with a bandolier and an AK-47, and him with a large afro with the looks of the Stokely Carmichael type of that era. Tell me they were wrong, the stereotype. They're actually acting out the stereotype of revolutionaries in the White House. It's happening right in front of your eyes. Meanwhile, they're living high on the hog. It's not exactly, he's talking the talk of the revolutionary and getting down with the people, but just like Castro, he lives high on the hog, doesn't he? Higher than anybody. Air Force One for any golf game he wishes. She on her junkets. Mother lives in the White House. 72 personal assistants. Unheard of. Marie Antoinette never lived better. Never. Meanwhile, all the time stirring up the poor and the masses. So now we're looking here in England, over in England rather, at the polls just closed. And it's up for grabs. Right now, no party has enough seats to form a government. It's interesting to show you, we have two stinking parties. Democrat, Republican. It's a Democrat party, Republican party. I call it the Democrat Party, Republican Party since 1994 when I started in radio. It's a one-party system in this country with a very, very slim difference on taxation. That's about it. Conservatives, Labor Party, SNP, Liberal, Democrat, UKIP, and other. We have two choices. A diet Democrat or diet Republican. I'm the kind of guy who likes fresh squeezed orange juice, but it's not on the menu. I can't vote for fresh squeezed orange juice. I get a choice. Either I get Snapple or I get Crapple. Whatever I want, I can't get. It's nonsense. But we'll see. In England, they have choices. The funny thing is they have all this choice, and they're more controlled than we are. Go figure that one out. With the parliamentary system, they're even more to the left than we are. That's with all these six parties or more. So who knows going to win? Let's pray to God Miliband, the Laborite, doesn't win. That left-wing lunatic, liar, demagogue, useless idiot, liar, elitist, appeasing the worst elements of Britain. Miliband, appeasing the worst elements of the gutter, appeasing the radical Muslims, appealing to Sharia law in his own country, that sellout swine. That's England for you. There he is, smiling. Labour Party leader Ed Miliband and his wife Justine Thornton leave the polling station at Sutton Village Hall in Sutton. Sutton. Who's that guy Sutton, the bank robber? Willie Sutton. Willie Sutton, the bank robber. I can go into that riff, but I'm not going to do it right now. Okay, you want to talk about any of this? 855-407-282. Or, I think I'll do something else entirely. This morning I appeared on the local radio station, KSO, with Brian Sussman and Katie Green. And I was just got up, coffee, feeding the birds. And he asked me about the article that was posted on Drudge. So I want to do this. This is a little harder, Robert. Start the beginning of clip 1. I'll tell you when to stop, then we'll go to clip 2 so they get the context of me in the morning and how I am. And Start with clip 1.
I love it. We're getting a house call from Dr. Savage. Good morning, Michael Savage. We were just invoking your name. How are you?
Well, that's why I called. It's early morning for me. My show's at noon. Turn you on. As I was noticing that the bay hasn't risen at all this morning from the melting of the ice caps. That's good to know. And I was throwing used pita bread to the seagulls and laughing to myself how much they love gluten. It hasn't seemed to kill the seagulls yet. But I heard you talking about the link on Drudge, and I'm glad you said that it's not too far-fetched, the idea that this gangster regime would arm the gangs.
Right.
Let's think about it. You're right. In context, it's already happening. When you have the police of San Francisco being told to wear uniforms they'd wear to a funeral to control a crowd, tell me who they're tipping the scales in favor of.
Right. The police in San Francisco are facing the mobs tomorrow. Tomorrow in San Francisco, the vermin, the left-wing vermin who don't work for a living, they're all receiving state or federal subsidies of some kind, are going to wreck the city, riot in the city. And the police have been told not to wear uniforms other than the dress uniforms as though they're going to a funeral. Not even to wear their badges because the vermin can rip the badges off and hit them in the face with it. So the police has a job. Police job is to protect us from criminals. The criminals are being told tomorrow run wild in the streets. So that's what's going on now, city to city, because of the regime in the White House. So my point is the gangs are already armed. They don't have to be given weapons. They have weapons. You talk about disarming. Why don't you disarm the gangs instead of the middle class who are afraid